How's it going, guys? My name's Steve, or We Hate Zombies, and I'm coming at you with a new video. This is an idea I've had for a while. Just kind of talking about the current state of COD Zombies and where we've gone from to where we're at now. And the two games I want to look at specifically are Black Ops 4 and Cold War. And so I'm someone who started playing zombies way back in World of War. Um, I really have grown to love the mode. I was terrified when I was younger playing as like a 9-year-old kid. But then as Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, these golden age zombies games came out. Me and my friends played the shit out of them. Like we've done every Easter egg, we've played every freaking Black Ops 4 gauntlet. We've done numerous challenges, speed runs, rainbow perks, stuff like that. And I've just really fell in love with zombies over the years. But the past two titles have been lackluster and maybe just failed to hit the mark as much as many of us in the zombies community would have wanted. So starting off with Black Ops 4, I would say that Black Ops 4 ultimately was a failure. They tried to be ambitious, starting with 4 launch maps, and it was great for us zombies fans who wanted extra content. Like we were always looking for more maps, more weapons, more perks, more anything to keep us satisfied, really. And it was just a little too ambitious, as we saw. The first thing we have to say about Black Ops 4 is the constant crashes at launch, and the half-finished game that we got was just not ideal, to say the least, and frustrating beyond belief. Now, Black Ops 4 at least tried to innovate. I mean, were they good innovations? Were they needed innovations? That's we can have some debate over. But they tried new perk systems, new point systems, new stories, and a lot of them failed to hit the mark. I mean, the Chaos story was bland and seemingly confusing, more confusing than the Aether story, if possible. And the points and perk system, well, were not very well received by the community, but I respect Treyarch for trying something new. Then we had a new addition to the game, well, in the form of Create a Class. And it was cool starting with a different weapon other than a pistol, but it had its flaws. I think having to pick your 4 perks for the game was just a weird system. I mean, I used to like to kind of formulate my 4 perks I picked for the map around the guns I got. So if I got a HK back in Black Ops 1, I definitely want to get Speed Cola, maybe some Stamina up, because it was a slow LMG. But if I was running, an AK-47 or something like that, an AR, a Galil, I'd maybe skip out on, Speed Cola, and I'd go for Stamina up instead. See, this was a thing that was kind of taken out of the strategy in Black Ops 4. Then we had some very uninspiring wonder weapons. I mean, we had the Elemental Mark IIs. Black Ops 4 also had a bunch of specialists you could start off the game with, which were extremely overpowered. I mean, back in Black Ops 3, we could get Ragnaroks and the Skull of Non-Stopway, but you had to go through a whole journey, like a quest, to really unlock these things. While the Black Ops 4 specialists were probably better than those specialists, and there was no challenge in unlocking them. You just started with them on round 1, charged them up, and you had them on round 5 or earlier. This was, I think, a questionable design choice, to say the least. There was also just a series of lackluster maps. I mean, we launched with 4, but 2 of them were remakes, Blood of the Dead and Classified being okay, I guess. I think 9 is one of the most overrated maps of all time. If you stuck that in Black Ops 3, no one would think it was special, even though everyone seems to love it. And Voyage honestly gets a little more hate than it deserves. I think the Kraken was pretty interesting, but the Easter egg itself was terrible. I mean, that planet step gives me nightmares to this day. And I really have to discredit Black Ops 4 for the end of the normal Aether story that it gave us. I was so excited for DLC 3 and 4. I mean, it was disappointing that both DLC 1 and 2 were for the Chaos story, even though I think Ancient Evil was an excellent map, probably the best map in Black Ops 4 and one of the most underrated maps of all time. But getting the remake of Nuketown, which was Alpha Omega, and the remake of Call of the Dead, which was Tog der Toten, they were okay maps. I mean, Tog more so than Alpha Omega. Alpha probably being the least memorable map of all time. I think my major concern was we never got to fight that Great War. We never got that Great War map. And also, these cutscenes were like comic book cutscenes. They weren't even actual cutscenes that we were used to. And it was just overall such a disappointing feeling leaving off with such an epic story that we've grown to love over 8 to 10 years. What was it? Something like that. But we'd be watching these Mr. Raffle Waffle videos, listening to the story about Peter McCain and this and that and Pablo and all these people, and just for it to end with Richtofen being like, the greatest war we fought was the war within ourselves. What can you do? I have to give credit to Black Ops 4 for not just being Black Ops 3.5. Even though the community might have received a Black Ops 3.5, like a very similar game to Black Ops 3, more favorably than what we got, I respect them for taking risks, and I know they had some pressure on their development time, cut in half, apparently. I don't know the full story, but it was not ideal scenario for them when creating the game. However, Cold War, where Black Ops 4 let us down in mechanics and systems, Cold War did a great job with its mechanics and systems. It feels nice to train in Black Ops Cold War. I can't say the same for Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 felt clunky and strange. I don't know how to describe it, but you know if you've played the earlier Zombies games and you go to Black Ops 4 and it just feels different. You go to Cold War, you run a train, and it feels right. However, other than feeling right and having good gunplay and gameplay for that matter, Cold War really misses the mark with content. I mean, to start off, they pandered to their old crowd by bringing back a Nox style map in Die Maschine, just kind of as a nod to the faithful of the community. But honestly, at this point in time, I don't want to see Noct again. I want to see new maps. I want to see more innovation, more risks. And I know, like, I just complained about Black Ops 4, but we can't forget how people complained about Black Ops 3 with Shadows of Evil. That map had one of the most disappointing launches, I think, ever. People were very upset with that map. And now the community holds it in such high regard, but at launch, everyone was playing the giant over it. That we weren't ready for it. And with age, it got so much better. But with Cold War, they launched with one map. It was okay, I guess. Had a very simple Easter egg. I have no desire to play more than one time, really. And they took out a lot of the core things that made me love Black Ops 2 and Black Ops 3 Zombies. I mean, there was buildables, but they were mainly for the Easter egg. They added this new scrap system to upgrade guns and shields, but it just felt like generic. I don't know how to explain it more clearly, but it felt like the soul of Zombies had kind of gone by the wayside for gameplay, I guess. And playing as operators instead of our classic 4 premise crew just felt empty. There was minimal risks taken, as I said before, and it showed. I mean, the community was starved for maps. We were just looking for any sort of content to cling on to, but for I think several months we only had D Machina, and it wasn't until the release of Firebase Z, which was a decent map, but again, like a vast map with perk machines and all this and that. But a Wonder Fizz machine that stayed still, which was right next to the Pack-a-Punch machine, which made it so that I would just spend my entire game in the spawn training zombies, upgrading my gun, upgrading my armor, and it just became monotonous. I mean, sure, the gameplay was a lot cleaner than Black Ops 4, but there was no setup. There was no pizzazz to the early rounds that other maps had. And people complain about complex setups for Pack-a-Punch and upgraded staves and all this and that, but I'd say that's where Zombies is at its core, its best. During those middle rounds, say from 5 to 20, it's not fun to just be training zombies and upgrading guns in one area, which is what I often find myself doing in Cold War. I never venture out of my typical training areas. I just kind of follow the giant arrows on the map one round when I'm feeling lucky and open up pack and then return to my spot to keep training and grinding. See, it's the lack of content and lack of maps that really just made the soul of Zombies disappear. I mean, we're now 8 months into the title. We have 3 main maps and Outbreak, and Outbreak is even more disappointing than the maps themselves, I'd say. Yeah, sure, it was fun to log on and play those first few days when it came out, and they keep adding some maps and little outside objectives, but it is so repetitive and it doesn't hold the same replay value that Drak or Origins has for me still to this day. See, I could load up Origins and speedrun the Easter egg, or play without stabs, but I have to open up the map and do all the generators, or I can log on to Gorod Krovi and just, I don't have to do the whole Easter egg, but I can unlock the Gauntlet of Siegfried. It's like these fun little side quests that keep your game interesting in those early rounds, and make it so that once you get to the late rounds, you're proud of what you've accomplished. You've unlocked all these things through your own hard work. And get me started on these limited time game modes, cracked, whatever the fuck it was called. Terrible game mode. Jingle Hells, terrible game mode. It just feels like a half-assed attempt at giving us content with minimal effort. I mean, Cranked especially seemed like it was made in maybe 20 minutes by a couple guys who slapped on a timer to zombies and called it a day. It's really disappointing to see the lack of love that we're getting in this mode. And as much as it pains me to say, Warzone and multiplayer are always going to come first. And we've known that with previous titles, but now it's more apparent than ever. I think that Zombies is in one of the worst states it's been in a while. Ever since the height of the community back when DLC 5 for Black Ops 3 was finally revealed, we had our Zombies Chronicles. We were at an all-time high, and we didn't know how good we had it. With the launch of Black Ops 4, we had a poor game. One where the developers really tried to do something new and failed to meet the community's high expectations. With Cold War, it feels like they listened to the community to an extent and tried to get that gameplay back to its crisp, natural feel for zombies that we know and love. But with that, they also forgot the main components that make it so wholesome. The maps with all their attention to detail and small little Easter eggs that the community loved to find. And the characters we knew to love. Now, in August 2021, it feels like Zombies is on the decline. I just hope with another title, another game, we can get back to the golden days of COD Zombies.